Cool. All right. So I think we're all good. Great. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Cassidy. If you don't know me, I am an instructor and developer here at React Training. And we teach workshops. We teach a lot of workshops all over the place. And we're trying to do more and more remote workshops, especially because, as you can imagine, it is one of those times where nobody is in the office because of this dang virus. But I'm going to be talking to y'all about React things. It looks like more people can join in. Yay! Oh, great. Yeah, I think we bumped our license so that way we can get a few more people in there. But anyway, so I'm going to be talking to you about just some core React hooks and everything. This is being recorded, and so if you need to jump off, that should be fine. And I will bring up a code sandbox for everybody to get on. And you can paste this code into your own editors. I just figured this would probably be the easiest way for you to actually work on your own machines and everything. And so I just put the link in there to everyone. So you should be able to see that. And so I'll be going through just a plain JavaScript file, going through everything with React, and then from there I'll show you an exercise that we can all do together too. And so with that code sandbox, you can go ahead and fork it, or again, you can download it, however you want to work on it, and then you can type along with me, or I can just work on it and you can just watch and learn. But are there any questions before we get started?
None that I can think of. I think we're pretty set.
Cool. Two people told me to speak slower and one person told me to speak faster. So that's great. I'll just try to not worry about that. But yes, it will be recorded, don't worry. And we'll try to make all this work. I'm wearing a lot of red today with the red glasses, red hoodie, red chair, red keyboards. It's fine. It's color of the day. I'll wear blue tomorrow or something. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get into code. Oh, I am supposed to wear green today. Oh no. Okay, I'm pasting the code sandbox again to everyone because this is the code that you'll need to fork. All right. So, okay, yeah, I'm getting digital pinches. Oh no, I have like a plant. I just watered it, so I don't want any water to pill out, but that's my green. I've got some green Post-its. I just dropped a lot of things to show you those Post-its. Okay, cool. Let's actually get to reacting. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, this desktop. Okay, cool. Let me pull this over. And then let's see, I'm going to have stuff on the side here so that way if you have questions you can ask, but in case oh here, you know what, yeah, I'll keep the chat open. So if you have questions, my coworker Brad is on the call and he'll be there to answer questions if you have any. Otherwise I'll just, you know, keep working and keep an eye on the chat on the side. But thanks, Brad. Okay, cool. So let's actually get started. So this is the code sandbox that you'll see. Again, this is the link if you didn't see it in the chat. And we'll just get right into it. And so we're going to be talking about React and React hooks. And I know some of you are more advanced developers, some of you are more beginner developers, but no matter what, if you've had a lot of experience with React or a little bit of experience with React, it's a good thing to think about, a good way to think about React like this. And so React itself is a blueprint. It's something that you can use to explain what a UI is, to describe what a UI is. But React DOM is the thing that actually uses that blueprint to use that blueprint and put it into the browser. Similarly to how React Native will render whatever React describes into a mobile setting, React DOM renders it into the browser. And so if I wanted to use React and React DOM together, what I could do is I could say let React element equal a div and slash div like this. And I'll just say hello like that. And then I'll say let DOM element is equal to document get element by ID root. And then I'll put them together with React DOM. React DOM.render, and then React element and DOM element, like that. And then if I save it, hello, it worked. So what's happening here? What we have is an index.html that's rendering, or that's holding all of this. This is the index.html. It's a pretty standard head and body and everything, and there's a div with the ID root, and that's all that exists. And what's cool about all of this is that we can make an entire React application live in one div. And that's kind of the most amazing thing. And I've been doing web development for a long time, and pre-React days with all of these different frameworks and everything, there is a lot to do for our hello world. And meanwhile, we can put a React application, yes, it's just one div, but we can put it all inside one root and have things happen around our React element, have React elements work together. It's really amazing. And so this is kind of our very basic React element and DOM element. And I think someone is unmuted. Make sure you mute yourself. And if it's not too loud, but it might be loud at some point if, I don't know, you start screaming or something. Anyway, don't start screaming. Okay, so now also I should turn off my notifications so that way you don't see my mom texting me about coronavirus. 1 second. Okay, just did that. All right. So anyway, now that we have something actually rendered to the screen, this is called a React element. And what's actually happening under the hood is this is JSX, and so a lot of people, they get mad when they see this because they're just like, there's HTML in my JavaScript. I hate that. And I understand. We all hate things. But let's just say we have React element. I'm going to comment that out there. Let's just say we do it the JavaScripty way. We could do react.create element, and then under the hood we have div, and then there's no attributes on there, and it'll say hello like I just did before. Did I do the same number of O's? No, I didn't, darn. But anyway, this is the exact same thing, but using a more JavaScripty syntax rather than this JSX syntax. So what React does is it transforms this JSX into react.create element, and that's what's happening under the hood there. And so if I wanted to turn this into a button, this is the tag name. And so now it's a button. If I wanted to add some kind of class name to it, these are the different attributes. It's an object. And so I could do class name, and then I don't actually think I have classes for it. But if I wanted to add like a classes button, that's how I would do that. And it would be the equivalent of saying class name is button. And so that's how this react.create element works. And then anything inside of here are the containers of that tag. I'm going to make this back to null again. And so it says hello. I could also add another element like this and do these exclamation points. These are just kind of text nodes that keep appending there. And because these are just strings and because it's just JavaScript, I could get really abstract with this. I could turn this into a variable. And so I could do something like let text equals hello. And then I could put text right here, and then nothing has changed except our exclamation points are gone, but it's taking in this variable. And I could even get more abstract where I could turn this into some kind of immediately invoked function where inside of here we return text, or not hello, we'll return the text variable, text plus a bunch of exclamation points like this. And then when I refresh the page, wow, it actually worked. JavaScript is weird. But anyway, so this is what's great about React. It is just JavaScript under the hood, and it's really nice. It does a lot of nice compilation and everything. But let's just stick with the JSX syntax, because as great as that is, this is shorter. and much easier to compose with. And if I want to use a variable in my JSX, then let me actually put this up here so that way I can get those errors to go away. If I want to put variables inside of my React elements and everything, whenever you have these curly braces, that's a JavaScript expression. And so I could have put this immediately invoked function right in here if I wanted to, and it would be beautiful. I hope that makes sense. I'm keeping an eye on the chat, but I appreciate all of the folks answering questions and chatting and stuff. But anyway, so this is a React element. Now, in case you don't know the difference between an element and a component, here is the big difference. Voila, it is done. Okay, so if you want to make a React element a reusable component, you turn it into a function that returns that element. And so now I have this React element. What I could do is instead call this, I'm going to turn this into a button again because I liked that button idea, button. And I'm going to say this is now a button. Now down here, I can turn this into a JSX tag that's reusable like this. And look at that, it's the button. It's exactly what we did before, but now I can have multiple buttons. And so, for example, if I scroll down here, what I could do is I could have a div element, and then inside of this div element, I could have as many buttons as I want. Button, like that. And then I could just have button, 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 and tons of these. Button, 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 like that. And look at that, we have a reusable component. It doesn't do anything, but it says hello. And that's what we need in these times when we are isolated and we just want someone to say hello to us, right? Right, okay, cool. So now that we have done all of this, this is all well and good. React is a declarative framework, or library rather, that lets you declare a user interface and it works. But it doesn't just declare a user interface, but it declares state within that user interface. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about what that actually means. And so right now we have this button and everything. Actually, I'm just going to talk about what declarative means. So for an example, in my office, I am very cold. This is a very cold room that I am in right now. I have this little like heater thing on my wall where I can put in the temperature and that triggers the heat in my room. And I also have a little portable heater that has like a little knob down here, and so I can adjust the heat because I am just a really cold person. Not cold-hearted, although some people might, you know, we'll get to that later. You don't need to know that about me. Anyway, so I'm in this cold room. If I want to adjust the heat on my portable heater, I just kind of go up and down and it gives me more heat or less heat. That's great. And then with this temperature thing back here, I say I want it to be exactly 60 degrees or 72 degrees. And it just works. I don't know if the heat is going to be blowing particularly hard or less depending on the temperature of the room, but I say that I want it to be at 72 degrees and that's it. And by the way, that's in freedom units and not Celsius for all of you non-Americans out there. So if I have that temperature set, I don't care what my heater is doing as long as it's 72 degrees in the room. And so sometimes it'll be blowing a lot of air, sometimes it'll be blowing less air, but I've declared I want it to be 72 degrees. Meanwhile, with my little portable heater, I just kind of say, okay, I want it to be blowing lots of heat at this point. I want it to be blowing less heat at this point. The portable heater with the knob, that's more like imperative programming. That's more like jQuery, where let's just say I wanted to update a button where there's some kind of counter and I say, okay, I want the counter to increase. With jQuery, what I would need to do is get the element, get the text node inside the element, parse it into a number, then increase that number or decrease that number based on the click, and then I don't necessarily always know what's in that number element. I just know that that's how I access it and then that's how I use it. Meanwhile, with React, because it's declarative, we say, okay, based on this one variable, based on this state variable, I want you to be at this value. And if you're at this value, things can change, but I want the user interface to look like this at this value. And so that's what imperative and declarative means. And that was a lot of talking, but let's actually use it. And so we have this simple button right now. I'm actually going to get rid of the button and I'm going to turn this into a different component. I'm going to call this Pokemon. And yes, it's about to get pretty fun in here, folks. Okay, so we have Pokemon and slash Pokemon, and we're going to be calling that there. Okay, cool. So we have a Pokemon element. Nothing has changed. I'm going to wrap this in curly braces down here and then return so that way we can use some variables and make this a little bit smarter. Let's actually add state to this Pokemon application. Now, typically what I could do is let Pokemon equal Pikachu like that, and then I could just put this Pikachu variable in there, and that's great. Pikachu has shown up. I'm pleased, it works, what have you. But if I want to turn this into a state variable, what I do is I import a React hook called useState. And with useState, what I can do is call useState right here. And then we now have a stateful variable. And so the initial state of this stateful variable is Pikachu, and it actually returns a tuple. Those of you with a computer science background, set Pokemon, will appreciate the use of a tuple here. And so what's happening is we have our state variable Pokemon with the initial value of Pikachu, but then we also have this set Pokemon, and this set Pokemon function will change the value of Pikachu. And so if I wanted to, for example, have some kind of button in here, or actually, let's turn it into an input element. And so if I wanted to do input type equals text, and then I think that's what I need. I'll probably need to do more. So we have this type equals text, and look at that. We have words. But what I want to do is I want to actually be able to type in Pikachu in here or some name, and it'll actually change this Pokemon variable. What I can do is have on change, and then inside of here, I'll have a function that calls set Pokemon to this event.target.value. So e and then e.target.value like this. So right now the initial state is Pikachu, but if I typed Mew, then it's Mew. If I typed Gengar, then it's Gengar. No matter what I type, that is what the state of that variable will be. And so you can have more state-driven applications. If I say that, again, I want the temperature of the room to be 72, I type 72, and that's what the variable is. And so React handles all of the rendering in the browser. You only have to handle the actual variables that you're using, the JavaScript variables that you're using. It's very similar to set state. Yes, I saw that in the questions in class-based React, except it is structured in a different way, and unfortunately we don't have time to get into that and why it's different. But useState is the way to set state in functional components. Maybe one of our React workouts will deal with the difference between set state and useState. That could be fun, but until then we'll leave that as it is for now. But anyway, we have this Pokemon here, and instead of just naming it, and I'll do Mewtwo, we could turn this into hello Pokemon like that. As it refreshes the page, it has hello Pikachu for the initial state, but again, I could do, what's another one? Ditto, and it'll say hello Ditto, and it just kind of works around this variable name. And I could have various things happening here. Let's just say I have another div, and I'll just say, wow, this is cool. And the reason why I did that, it might sound silly, but I want to show you what's happening here. Typically I don't use code Sandbox, and so I hope that this works. Okay, cool. So I'm going to inspect this. And so if you see what's happening, we have the div that says, wow, this is cool. We have the input type text, we have Pikachu. If I am changing the value, and I'll change this to Mewtwo again, notice how in this inspected element, just this text node Mewtwo changed. And I'm gonna change it again. And so take a look. What's another one? Giratina. Look at that. just this text node changed, not this wow, this is cool changed, the input didn't change, none of these other text nodes changed, just this one did. So React is very, very precise. And so just the things that are changing based on the state variables are actually changing in there. And so this is kind of a very key aspect of how cool state variables are and how neat that is. So now that we've talked about state, I want to talk about loading in actual real data, because as cool as state variables are and everything, we want to be able to query APIs. And I'm sure as you have your single page applications and everything, you want to be able to query some APIs that you might be making. And yeah, we'll be fetching data. I see a few people in the chat talking about that. So to actually fetch data, what you have to use is what's called an effect, and there's useEffect for that. useEffect is a special hook for that. I'm going to take out this variable that we're not using anymore. Now, an effect is it's a side effect, and that's why it's called useEffect. And if you want to learn what a side effect is, think of some function. Let's just say function add, and it takes in x and y, and then in this function x and y, ooh, I just heard a little audio blip, I'm sure it's fine, we'll return x plus y. This is a very, very simple JavaScript function, and I'm sure you understand what that does. Now let's just say we have a variable called z, and we'll say the initial value of that is 10, for example. Now, if we wanted to add a side effect to add, we could say z equals, I don't know, z plus x or something like that. Now what's happening is, even though we call add and we still return x plus y, the side effect of that function is that z increases by x every single time. It doesn't necessarily affect this return value. It's just something that happens every single time you call add. And that's generally what a side effect is. And so with useEffect, you use that to query data and everything, and then you don't have to worry about whether or not it affects, is this component going to render or not. And so let's just say that we want to query the Poke API, because there's this awesome Pokemon API called Poke API that's free. And that's why I'm using it, because it's awesome. And so you can query a Pokemon and you can get all of these different abilities and data and things. We want to query that. Now, first I want to show a quick example of useEffect without the API, and then we'll actually query that API so you can see how it works. So useEffect takes in two parameters. It takes in a function, and it also takes in an array. Now, the function is the actual effect function that will be called, and then the array is what's called a dependency array. And this function is going to be called on mount whenever the component is put on the page, and then whenever a variable inside the dependency array changes. And so let's just say, for example, if I change the document.title to be saying hello to, and then the Pokemon name, Pokemon. We could say that we want the document title to change every single time Pokemon changes. And I don't actually know if document title works on Code Sandbox. Well, well, it's a learning experience. So actually, instead of document.title, you know what? You get it. If I were to run this application now and in a normal window, the document title would say saying hello to Pikachu, and then when I typed Mew, then the document title would say saying hello to Mew. And this is just a little hook that you can use that that works on the side there, and it's an effect that happens no matter what is rendered. And it's something that just is dependent on this state variable Pokemon, and it's something that runs. So if we want to actually query an API, what we can do is we can put a regular fetch call inside of this useEffect. And so what I'm going to do is write out this fetch call here. Mouse is spazzing a little bit. And so I'm going to call fetch on the Poke API. And I actually have the string here, so let me just copy that here. and paste that here. And so we're going to call the Poke API v2. That's just their base URL slash Pokemon, and then slash, and then in here we'll do Pokemon. And so it's going to get Pikachu or whatever the initial value is. And I think it needs a lowercase letter, but okay. So once we've done that, then we need to get the JSON. So then and then res.json. Like that, and then we need to get the response again, but we can actually use that response now. And so what I'll do is I'll do set, let me have another state variable, let image and set. Ooh, someone just yawned loudly. I'm sorry to bore you, but also please mute your microphone. Okay. Okay, we have image and set image, and then I'll use state, and I'll have the initial value of that be null. And now I'll do set image inside of this query right here, and I'll do I'm pretty sure it's res.sprites.front default. I've used this API too much that I know how to do that. Okay, and then we want this effect to run every time Pokemon changes. Okay. So we have hello Pikachu, we have that run. Now I'm going to also have an image. I'll add a conditional in here actually, and I'll do image and so if image is not falsy, then this will render. And I'll do an image src equals, and I'll do image like that. Hey, look at that! We got Pikachu! Woo! Oh, we need this to be accessible. Alt equals sprite. Anyway, so we have that in there. And so now if I change this to Mew, oh, well, you know what? If I close that out, it works. And so we might need to add some debouncing and stuff, but this is a basic lecture, so I won't get into that now. But what was happening there is that that because I had typed like M and then E and stuff first, it was trying to query the API with M and then ME and then finally MEU. I could actually catch that. I could do catch, and then if there's an error, I'm going to do nothing. Console.log. Poop. Okay. Maturity. All right. And so if I were to do Mewtwo and query that, then something should happen. Maybe I caught it and then nothing happened. Ah, look at that. Look at all the poop. Okay, well, we don't want to do that. I'm just going to pretend that there's no errors, and that's how debugging works. Cool. Well, I broke something, but you know, it's fine. You saw how that works. Okay, cool. So we've queried this API. I just realized what the problem is. I don't know if you've realized what the problem is, but we can fix this. What's happening is we are getting out of date data, and so it's getting stuck on the state change that happened with out of date data. And so what we can do, I'm going to explain this after I type it really quick because don't want to run out of time. And then I'll do if is current. We'll set the image, I'll do true. And then return this function in here, and is current is now false. Cool. So that should fix that problem, generally. What are my errors? Well, you know what? Something weird is happening. Unexpected joke in N in JSON. That might be a problem with the API itself. Anyway, so let me talk about why I just did all of this. And I just refreshed the page and I hope I saved. Oh no. I'm so used to doing this on my personal computer and not on Code Sandbox. Okay, everything should be fine. Yeah, everything's fine. Mew. There it is. Now it's actually showing up even though there are errors. I'll catch those later. So anyway, what's happening? We have this is current is true. And we're saying when we fetch this API, that means that we are in the current state of this application. And we have this function right here that's called a cleanup function. And we need this because even though we're not calling this, we're returning this. Whenever Pokemon changes, it's going to get this return function and make isCurrent as false. And so let's just say I called Mew and then I deleted it really fast and then queried Gengar super quickly before the Mew query finished. Gengar would load on the page, or an error would load on the page, something would load on the page, and then later Mew would load when it was the previous query, if that makes sense. And so we have, if you look at my video instead of actually at my screen, if you have a slow query that goes, and then you have a fast query that completes really fast, that's great, but then the slow query will finish later and you'll have out of date information. And so by doing this, then we always have the most up-to-date information on there. And so that's how that one works. It's a very quick explanation because I want us to have enough time for a little exercise. But anyway, that's generally what a cleanup function does. You don't have to worry about it too much, but it's something that you'll have to do for an API like this. So we are now able to query data. I can do Gengar, and then I need to catch that error really quick because that is driving me crazy. Catch, and then I'll do nothing. Console.log. Stop it. Okay. Gengar. Hey, there we go. So we're catching the error now. Whenever I haven't finished typing something. Mew happens super fast. Giratina, that's a little longer, but I wonder if they don't have data for that. Maybe it's just the original 151. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we queried this API, this Pokemon API. We pass in our state variable. The state variable is being changed on the input right here. And then when we get the most recent state variable and we query it, we can get the sprite and we set a different state variable there. And then we are actually rendering the sprite right down here. And so that's how all of this works. And don't worry, I'll be posting the code so that way you can look at it a little bit more closely. But now that we have done all of this, we have an exercise that I want you all to do. And this is the part where I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen just for a second. I'm back. Okay, and I'm going to post in the chat an exercise for you all to work on. Let me pull it up. Okay, so this is the exercise. Oh, I just posted it to an individual person because someone individually chatted me. Okay, 1 second. Here we go. So this is the exercise, if you can jump in on that. And so what I'm actually going to do, we have a very large group. So I'm going to set up Zoom breakout rooms so you can work on it with people. And so you can unmute and actually chat with people. If you don't want to do that, watch out. But I have this little exercise for you. And so I'm going to share my screen really quick one more time. 1 second. I know everybody's like, my inner introvert is showing. We're social distancing remotely. And so this is what the exercise looks like. Right now we have these two little accordions and it's just using the Reach UI accordion, which is a really nice API. I highly recommend it. I'm also biased because my company maintains that repo. But anyway, we need to populate this with real data. And so if you look at the actual app itself, we have this accordion, we have accordion items. There's these buttons that actually have these panels right here. And I want you to populate each accordion panel with Pokemon data. And so what you need is you need to have state variables for both the sprite and for the abilities. You need to query the API, which I set up a little comment in here for you, so that way you don't have to do the fetch yourself. You just have to set up the useEffect. And then once you have all of these values, you populate them inside of the React component. Okay, I am now going to stop sharing my screen and you're going to work on it together. It's going to be so fun. You're all going to love it. Okay, I prepare for 20 years to social distance, and now you make me talk to people. I'm so sorry, but also I'm not. Okay, cool. Welcome. Here's your code sandbox with your exercise. Am I providing cool tunes? Use the cool tunes in your head. Okay, so now let's see. My breakout rooms aren't showing up on my usual button, and so you all might be off the hook and just work on it yourself. Oh no, everybody's just like, oh no, darn it. Oh man, I announced breakout rooms and 50 people left the chat. That's really funny. Okay, yeah, the breakout rooms buttons aren't showing up, and so I think you all are off the hook. I'm just gonna leave that at that. But I do want you to keep working on this exercise. I would like to see what you do. Post your answers here or reply on Twitter or something. And do answer or do ask questions. You can ask verbally or type in the chat. Wash your hands. I also have red hand sanitizer, so I'm really sticking on brand today. But anyway, make sure, to enable breakout rooms, it's okay. It sounds like a lot of people didn't want breakout rooms, so it's fine. But anyway, this is the exercise. Work on it here. I will be sharing the code that I worked on, and I can also share my screen again if people have questions. But please do the exercise, fork this. I would like to see what questions you have, and I'm gonna, answer some of the private chats. Well, no, you know what? Keep it to the big chat. But I won't show the final result just yet. Definitely work on the exercise, and then I'll talk through the final results pretty quickly. I'm going through the chat. And can I show my Pokemon screen? Yes, I can. 1 second, I will share that so that you can see it again. It is good to actually do these exercises. I know a lot of people are just like signing off, thanks for the chat, but active recall is important. And so here's the code that I have so far. But I'm still keeping an eyeball on the chat even while this is open. Question, how do mimic component did update with useEffect? Well, that's what's really exciting. useEffect does basically replace those component lifecycle methods for class-based components. And so before, for example, if I were to do something like that, I would have to have some, let's just say this was in its own separate function. I would have to do, let's call this function setup, that queries all of this. I would have to call setup in component did mount. I would have to call this this function right here, this cleanup function in component did or will unmount. And then for component did update, that it's basically checking the variables inside this dependency array to see what changed and then make a change based on that. Should I take is current out of the effect? No, I actually put that in there for you as a hint. And so I have this if is current in here. I did that for you as a hint because that's something that you might need. And so have this at the front and then have this at the back, basically. And again, that's so that way when you're rendering, it's always rendering the most recent, the most current variable that you have just put out there. Which keyboard am I using at the moment? Good question. I am using a custom board that I made. It has some Xylent switches. They're my quietest switches I could use because otherwise you would hear some very, very loud clacking. Yeah, it's a board that I got in Korea when visiting my in-laws. Let's see, I'm not doing the exercise right now, following along at work, understand, cool. Also in the chat, Brad just posted a really good blog post about useEffect and comparing it with component did mount and stuff. My sister just messaged me because she was watching it. She was just like, I couldn't handle the social pressure of breakout rooms. It appears she is not alone. Funny. Let's see, how to do unit tests for React hooks. I recommend looking at, well, there's all kinds of different ways to do testing, and that could be a whole other workshop. I usually just use Jest and test a lot of utilities and stuff. And React testing library is great for that too. And what's cool about these hooks and everything, if you ever want to make your own custom hooks, it's just a regular function. So let's just say I had use document title like that. And I would say like title right here. I just copy this useEffect right in here. And then let me change this to title and then title. Then I can call use document title right here. And now it'll run the effect as normal. And then you can have this in a separate file and export it somewhere, and it's great. And you can just test this hook exactly instead of testing the entire component. And it's a really good way of breaking this up. But yeah, React testing library is a great thing maintained by a lot of very cool people. I know Kenzie Dodds has a nice testing specific course that uses it. But yeah, highly recommend it. Oh, and this is their DOM testing library. They have some specific for React, specific for Vue and stuff, but it's a really good testing library for that. Let's see. You did not pass the title to use document title. Oh, thank you. Pokemon. There you go. And again, the document title doesn't change on Code Sandbox, but in a regular application it would. How can you re-render the view if the API data is updated via another party? And so that's where, so if the API data is updated, that's, so I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Let's just say, I did add Pokemon to use document title. That's true, because it's a function. This is a state variable, and it's paying attention to the state variable Pokemon, and then it'll be updating it in the use document title. That was on purpose. And again, it shows nothing because I'm using Code Sandbox. If I were using my regular code editor, it would show the title. No, you don't have to take isCurrent out of the effect. Again, I put that in there so that way you can, so that way as like a little hint, you'll want to have the isCurrent in there to make sure that you're always rendering, oops, the most up-to-date data. Pressed a mouse button there, sorry about that. Let's see. You'll all want to add the linter for hooks. Yes, Brad is right. Let's see. If the API data is updated via another party, are you talking about like if there's a feed of information? If you are, that's what's called a subscription type function, and that you can query for that and make a listener that's run in the useEffect, if that's what you mean. By the way, when you're done with the exercise, let me know. Also, mute yourself because I can hear an echo through one of your microphones. Will we have this workshop every day? Yeah, I think that we're going to be trying to do this every day this week at least, and we'll see how it goes. And what I'm going to try to do is potentially put it on Twitch or something if Zoom doesn't work out. See, some people, I answered that because some people have been sending me questions privately. Do send them to everyone because then it's easier. But will these workshop videos be posted somewhere afterwards? We're recording them and then we'll put them on the React Training YouTube page. Cool. What parts of the abilities should we display in the accordion? That's up to you. I kind of left it open. I figured just the name of the ability is fine. For non-primitive stuff to put in dependencies to useEffect, you can put anything. Typically, the rules for what you put in useEffect are something that isState or useState or changes state. Typically, it's something state-driven, but it doesn't have to just be a plain state variable, a number, or something, anything like that. Ooh, people are sending in their code. I'm going to pull up David's. Look at that. He's got Mew. Let's stick in Gengar. Well, we've got synchronized loading. It's looking good. Let's see, on change, let's see. That should work. I wonder why it's not loading. Maybe there's something small in there. Let me do a small change and see if this helps. Return this function that makes is current equal to false. Let's see if that fixes it.
Lowercase.
Oh yeah, in lowercase. There we go. Nice. Cool. Good job. Yes, 2 lowercase. We could throw that in there. I leave for one meeting and you've got a whole app built. That's right. The power of React. So if you have not finished, ooh, Jonesy's got his. I'm going to open up one more because I'm curious to see how people are doing. It's so fun to see everybody doing great things with React, especially because I know some of you aren't JavaScript developers who are in there. And I think you sent me the original, Jonesy. What do you do when your useState name is the same as a local variable name, as in abilities? You could change it, but it also, it's pretty smart. Like as long as you scope it, you should be pretty fine. Bye, Helen, bye, Lad, bye, all these people who are saying bye. Where should I start? I am a complete newbie with React. You start with this lecture. I do recommend checking out Create React App. It's a great way to start a React application. And if you just joined in, you can watch this video that has been recorded. All right, so we've got this useEffect in there. It's looking good. Let's see, what's another Pokemon? I don't know. I play Pokemon Go every day. I should have one off the top of my head. Let's do far-fetched. I can't even spell far-fetched. And plus it's got the apostrophe in there probably. Oh, look at that, it worked. Hey, look at that. Wow, nice work, Jonesy. Good job, people. So create React app. React app. I mentioned it without explaining it. Create React app is a really great way for making a React app very quickly. And so all you have to do is run npx create React app my app, and then it sets up your folder structure for you, your dependencies, everything, and you can just go. It's a great starting point for React. I honestly personally start almost all my React applications with it because it's just so easy. It's this GIF explains it well. You CD into it, you npm start, and then your app runs. It's just a plain hello world application that sets stuff up for you. Both of these, both the beginning lecture and the exercise were set up with it. CRA versus Next.js, they are very different. And so Create React App is to start a brand new, just regular React application that's client-side, and Next.js is a React-based framework that does server-side rendering and routing and everything. Yeah. Oh yeah, Jigglypuff. I should do Jigglypuff. Hey, cute. Okay, I think you've gotten enough time. People are sending stuff. We're almost out of time. We have our app.final.js inside of here. And so if you didn't implement it yourself, you could copy and paste it and it will work. We have in here, we have our useEffect. We have that whole isCurrent thing. We're fetching. We're setting the images and setting the abilities in here with 2 state variables. In the final, I didn't actually do the input box, but you should do the input box. That was just me throwing together this. But we have the lightning rod and the static in there, and it queries that. And then down here, I do the image SRC with the sprite, just like we did before. And then with the abilities, I map it, and then I have the given abilities, the current ability .ability.name, and then that loads that in there. And so if I were to change it, again, you could have an input box. You could do it however you want. Again, let's see. Someone said Jigglypuff. I liked that one. Jigglypuff. If I were to save that and refresh it, now the abilities have changed, and then we also have the new sprite too. And that's how that exercise worked. Good job, folks. I'm very proud of all of you, and I actually am going to look at your responses because I like seeing how you all do it. But yes, this will be recorded. I apologize at the beginning for not being here right away because we didn't have enough space in the room. I feel like that's a design flaw in Zoom, that they made it so that way the host can't join if the room is full, but oh well. I hope you had a good time. Oh man, there's so many links. Okay, I'll go through all of them, I promise. But thank you all for coming in. We'll see you next time. I think we're going to do the same thing, same time tomorrow. And so we're going to keep this remote stuff interesting. If you would like to book a full 2-day workshop or 1-day or 3-day workshop for your team, let your managers know. Or if you're the manager, do it. And we're happy to do these remote workshops and actually have breakout rooms for you and your coworkers, and lots of really good exercises and fun things in a lot more detail. But anyway, thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks, Cassidy. Bye.
Bye.